Let's, your numbers give the Congress a slight edge. It's slightly different from some of the other polls that I outlined, and some of them are giving a decisive edge to the BJP. What in your mind explains the difference? Because clearly, I can understand that pollsters get the margin, here or there, ऊपर नीचे 10-15, वो तो ठीक है. But the direction, some polls getting the direction this way, some polls getting the direction that way. How does one explain that?
See, I am a bit conservative on this, but let me tell you that there are 40 seats in Madhya Pradesh where the margin is very, very low. Now, in these 40 seats, if the Bharatiya Janata Party ends up winning 55% of them, then it will cross 115. If it ends up winning 65% of them, it will cross 120. And if it ends up winning 80% of them, it will even cross 125 and cross 130. Now, on the women vote factor, Zaka, last time 50%, more than 50 seats were there where the women vote was more than the men vote. Those seats have now reduced to 34. Overall, the women voting percentage is not higher than the men voting percentage. It is 2% less than the men voting percentage. So if you look at it in totality, it is not like Bihar where the women disproportionately polled more than the men. Here the quantity of men vote is still higher than the women vote. If the women vote has increased by a certain amount, it's the men vote also which has also increased. So it's not that only one vote is increasing. But overall, I do feel that the Bharatiya Janata Party, if it is able to win these close margin seats because of the women vote, it can definitely cross the majority mark, and if it wins it one way, it can even cross 130. But I do not see a 150 scenario on the ground for sure. And just one small point, in the 58 seats that you mentioned, this time the BJP is not winning all of the seats because at some places there are issues with respect to the candidate. So if more women are voting for the BJP, less number of youth are voting for the BJP in Madhya Pradesh than what it had in 2018. And also note, in 2018, it was not the Congress which had polled more women vote, it was still the BJP which was polling more women vote than the Congress. It is now that the BJP has a disproportionate higher women vote. This is where it can definitely have an edge and also touch 130.
तो मनोज जी, मैं फिर वही एक पॉइंट पे आ रहा हूँ, क्योंकि देखिए एग्जिट पोलस्टर्स थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे यहाँ वहाँ हो सकता है, उसमें कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है, लेकिन 3 पोल इस तरफ और 3 पोल उस तरफ, तो उसमें तो कुछ गड़बड़ है ना.
आप इसको गड़बड़ भी मान सकते हैं. देखिए, जब भी हम लोग जाते हैं फील्ड में तो एक चीज़ देखते हैं कि पब्लिक किस चीज़ को पकड़ता है और पोल का नेचर क्या है. यदि आप मध्य प्रदेश में देखेंगे तो बीजेपी के लोगों को जितना विश्वास था कि बीजेपी हारेगी, उतना शायद कांग्रेस वाले को भी विश्वास नहीं था कि बीजेपी हारेगी. ये फैक्ट है कि पार्टी के अंदर जितना एंटी इनकम्बेंसी शिवराज सिंह चौहान के भीतर दिख रही थी, शायद पब्लिक के बीच में वो कम थी. दूसरी बात है कि ये पहली बार भारत के उन चीज़ों को देखिए कि जो लाडली बहना इन्होंने लेकर आया और उसके 4 महीने के अंदर 4 किस्तों को दिया और उसको इम्प्लीमेंट किया. उस योजना को लाकर एक तरह से देखा जाए तो भारतीय वोटर को पैसा दिया गया, वाइट के रूप में दिया गया, अकाउंट में दिया गया कि तुम मुझे वोट दो.
और ये बताइए, अगर ये चुनाव 6 महीने पहले होता तो फिर अलग स्थिति बन जाती.
पूरी तरह से अलग स्थिति. ये पिछले 1 महीने के अंदर जिस तरीके से चुनाव के समीकरण बदले हैं, मध्य प्रदेश के चुनाव पिछली बार 3 लोगों ने लड़ा था, शिवराज सिंह, कमलनाथ जी, दिग्विजय सिंह और ज्योतिराज सिंधिया. 3 लोगों ने मिलकर कांग्रेस को वहां लेकर आए थे. कमलनाथ जी मैनेजमेंट को संभाला था, दिग्विजय सिंह पार्टी को संभाला था और ज्योतिराज सिंधिया जी ने सारे पब्लिक जो उनके वोटर और ये थे उनको यूथ को इकट्ठा किया था. लेकिन इस बार सिर्फ कमलनाथ अकेले थे और पूरे चुनाव लड़ रहे थे, और दिग्विजय सिंह सिर्फ अपने सीटों पे, जिन सीटों पे अपने लोगों को उतारे थे वहां तक उन्होंने केंद्रित कर दिया था. लेकिन 1 महीने की पहले की स्थिति देखेंगे तो कांग्रेस में वैसी नहीं थी. दोनों बहुत काफी तालमेल बना के चल रहे थे. एक सिचुएशन जो कहा जाता है पार्टी के कांग्रेस के अंदर ये फैला कि दिग्विजय सिंह इसलिए नहीं इंटरेस्ट ले रहे हैं क्योंकि कमलनाथ जी यदि मुख्यमंत्री बनेंगे तो अपने बेटे को सेट कर सकते हैं. तो ये एक बड़ा नुकसान हो जाएगा. और अभी कमलनाथ जी हार जाते हैं तो क्या होगा कि नेक्स्ट उनके लिए सीएम का कोई पद नहीं है. तो एक यहां पे वो दिखा, बीजेपी में जो 6 महीने पहले जो विरोध दिख रहा था पार्टी के अंदर पे, 7 यहां से बड़े लीडरों को ले जाकर ये पूरी तरह से उनके सीएम के अगेंस्ट में जो ये था रोका गया था. एक बात ये भी आती है कि भाई क्या कारण हो गया बीजेपी के अंदर कि शिवराज सिंह चौहान ये बोल रहे हैं कि बहना मैं चुनाव लड़ूं या ना लड़ूं। एक एंटी इनकम्बेंसी को पहचानने का एक तरीका भी होता है लीडर को कि हमारे विरुद्ध कौन से वोटर हैं जो अगेंस्ट करते हैं। मैं तो ये समझता हूं कि शायद ये शिवराज सिंह चौहान अपने वोटर जिनके लिए उन्होंने पॉलिसी लेकर आया उनको पकड़ना चाहते थे, उनको कैच करना चाहते थे, इमोशनल, और उसमें वो सफल हुए।
तो ये दो चीजें हैं, and I want to ask Sanjay Kumar this. You know, one thing is, like I said, 6 months ago, had this election happened in Madhya Pradesh, maybe the result would have been different because everyone you spoke to said, you know, 18 saal ho gaye hain, there is a fatigue factor, naya chehra chahiye, and so on and so forth. So, you know, there was a fatigue factor with Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Two things changed in the last 6 months, and I'm curious to know from you whether voters decide on record in the last 6 months or whether they decide on the record of the last 5 years, because clearly the BJP made a lot of amends in the last 6 months. Shivraj himself, you know, really got a real wind in his sails with this whole Ladli Behna business and the LPG cylinder prices being reduced after the Karnataka elections, all of that. And then the central leadership, as Manoj ji said, flying in 7 MPs and 3 union ministers to, you know, contest the elections. Will that make a difference, the last 6 months and the catching up that the BJP did? Or do voters, you know, look at the last 5 years of a government and decide whether to vote it back or vote it out?
Zaka, I think there is a unanimity among a lot of pollster analysts that if elections were held, say, 6 months or a year ago, BJP would not have performed as good as they are likely to perform in the elections which has, you know, happened just now. And the reason is that for the last 6-8 months, BJP, especially Shivraj Singh Chauhan, has, you know, doled out various schemes, and Ladli Behna scheme is the scheme which is much talked about. So the big point, I don't think that BJP, the voters make a very carefully crafted decision about which party to vote for, looking at what party or what government has been able to do during the last 5 years. But whatever government has been able to do during last 6-8 months, even sometimes within the last couple of months, that creates a perception in the mind of the voter which becomes more stable and more durable compared to whatever party has been able to do or the government has been able to do during last 5 years. I think that has brought BJP back into a contest, serious contest, as some of the polls are also indicating that BJP may be winning assembly election in Madhya Pradesh.
Yeah.
If you look at, if I go by the data, we have figured out that, you know, roughly 13 between 12 to 14% voters make up their mind on the last day, very last day of voting, and similar number of the voters make up their mind couple of days before voting. Who are these voters? These are not the voters who are looking at, you know, 5 years of the government by any political party. They are making up their mind going by the perception, and the last 6 months, or I would say last 2 months, created a perception that BJP is in a serious contest. Shivraj Singh Chauhan is doing a good work with regard to various schemes. So this perception may have helped BJP in garnering more votes than they would have expected to get.
Okay. So let me go to the second big state, the heartland state.